we want to gather with who's going through a transition phase. And I said, what is different phase? Then they said, perimenopause and menopause. I said, okay, cool, because half of my patients are in that state as well. And like what Angela and I think Dr. Pramita earlier said, when does menopause start? When does perimenopause start? We don't know. We don't really care. In some ways, yes, but it's called a silent shift because it comes upon us so silently that we are not aware that we are in that state. We are not aware that we are transitioning. I want you to think back to the time when you were a child, maybe around 10 or 9, pre-puberty. Can you just close your eyes and think of yourself and try to imagine yourself back then as someone who's pre-puberty? What do you look like? What were you thinking at that time? Were you thinking about, I'm going through a transition? No. And how did it all happen? It happened so silently. It happened so silently that it catch you all by surprise. One day you're bleeding and you're like, oh my God, what is this? Right? And perimenopause and menopause is just another developmental stage that we go through. But this time, instead of bleeding, we stop bleeding. And when we first bleed, right, we go through a lot of emotional changes. Right? We go through a lot of, like they say, teenage rebellion. I'm sure many of your mothers here know what that means. We go through a lot of hormonal changes. Our skin change, our body change, our feelings change. Previously from the age of maybe 3 to maybe 7, you were a tomboy. And then you hit puberty and suddenly you change, you become a feminine. You look at boys differently, maybe. But we do go through this change. The thing about this change is that it really comes on silent. And so today I want to talk about the silent shift. Now, a lot of things are going to happen to us during this transition period. And all these things that are going to happen to us, it's going to happen to us silently. And so that's why self-awareness is really important. Sometimes it's not just about listening and thinking, oh, that's what these people say, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. No. When it comes to the mental state of the transitional phase or the developmental phase, we need to be more self-aware. Basically, we need to grow into that space or evolve into that space. We cannot walk into it. We can only evolve. And it's part of our biological evolution. And it's one of the most fascinating, interesting thing for a neuropsychologist like myself to look into. Because it's fascinating to see how our behavior, our attitude, our emotions, our voice, our body reacts to experiences that we have gained over a lifetime. Agree? Yeah? Agree? So I want you to take out your phone and take a selfie. Take out your phone and take a selfie. Some professionals. Okay, now I want you to look at your picture. What are you seeing in that photograph of yourself? What are you seeing? I'm going to call a few names. Anyone wants to volunteer? If you don't want to volunteer, I'm going to call it. Anyone wants to volunteer? What are you seeing?
Gray hair.
That's brown hair, gray hair. What are you seeing?
Wrinkles.
What are you seeing?
Rose feet.
A mature woman. Very good. What else are you seeing?
I need a surgery.
Okay, what else are you seeing? What else are you seeing? Happiness? Alright. Okay, you see happiness. What else are you seeing?
Joy.
joy. What else have you seen?
More wrinkle in your neck.
So what you are seeing etched in your face is your life journey. What you have gone through, every frown that you have taken, every smile that you have given, every tear that you have cried, every happiness and sadness that you have gone through is in that face. And you mold that face every day. Every day you are molding how you look. Agree? Because our face tells the story of us over time. So I know this is a bit more, but I have a friend, and she says that I really like to look. And she was in the mall, right? I really like to look at all the people's faces. And I'm like, okay, it's this, but the guy is me already. And she said, no, that's it's true. Because when I look at their face, the death mask, I could really feel the empathy to what this person has gone through in their time. Because it's kind of like ash in your face at the very last moment. And I'm like, oh, that's very deep. That's so deep. So when you're looking at yourself, I think you should try to look at it with empathy. Look at it with love. Look at it with passion. Look at it with exuberance. Look at it like a survivor. Because what all you have done is that you have survived your past. And who you are today is the accumulation of all the experiences that you have experienced until now. From the day that you were conceived till this very moment when you're being. So now that you have gone through that part, any questions on that? Any input that you want to share? Did you look at life this way? Did you look at life this way? Yes, right?
Sometimes life can be so fast
Yes.
that you don't see. You're raising kids, you're taking care of everything. When you see, you're already there.
Exactly. And this is 2026, and we're already almost hitting June. It's almost completed for I still remember Christmas last year. It's like time seems to be passing faster and faster. And how are we reacting to it? How is our body reacting to it? I saw an ad the other day on Facebook, and those advertisement that keeps popping up once in a while, right? And this one was talking about an AI course in Corsica. And there was the ad shows that, they were hiring this lady, and this lady, the HR asked her, what skills do you have? And she says, the normal skills. I've got Excel, I know Word, I know Microsoft, and all that. And the HR kind of looked at her and said, so you know any AI? And that's how fast our life has evolved. And I want to congratulate every woman here because you, this generation, who is from 50 and above, are the most adaptive and in the history of mankind. You have adapted from black and white TV. You remember black and white TV. You have people from a handphone that looks like a brain. No internet, no from the time without internet to internet. You have people from the time when the library was where you get knowledge, not Google.
Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia. My biggest source of knowledge last time was Encyclopedia Britannica. Yes. Who remembers Encyclopedia Britannica? And so we are the most fastest adapting human ever in the history of mankind. So is it unusual that we will also suffer from mental distress? Is it unusual for us then to sometimes feel depressed? because we are constantly experiencing grief. Our generation constantly experiences grief. We lose one thing, we lose one thing, we lose one thing, we lose one thing, we have to adapt, have to adapt, we have to adapt. I was born in an era where there was no Excel, and now they're talking AI. And not just ChatGPT, Notion AI. How many of you know what Notion AI is? See? None, right? But that's going to be the future. I was alone yesterday. Yeah, but these things like that are evolving so fast. And sometimes we feel left behind. And when we feel left behind, we start to overthink. And so we silently shift. And how we shift will reflect on how we look, how we feel, how our body changes, how our mind changes, how our connection, how our spirituality evolves as well. So it comes in a very holistic package. I'm sure all this is nothing new to everyone here because we are all experiencing it right now. Right?
Yes.
So coming on to the next one. No one ever prepares us for this transition in our lives, where we move from being career-oriented, where we move from being in our reproductive stage to our non-reproductive stage. No one prepares us. We learn about puberty and pregnancy by conversations about hormonal transitions, and those conversations are always missing. When you were growing up, did anyone talk to you about this pregnancy, about puberty? Yes, they do, right? But it's a very basic conversation, right? So many women feel emotionally drained, invisible, or suddenly unlike themselves and wonder what went wrong. You know, when you reach this stage in life, perimenopause, menopause, suddenly you feel like you're invisible. You feel like, you can be in a group, and in that group, your husband will dominate, your kids will dominate, everybody else will dominate except you. You will be the one that's exporting, giving up everything, and slowly you just disappear. Of course, you have your friend group and all that, but to the people that are really meaningful in your life, your kids, your siblings, your loved ones, your husbands, you kind of like disappear into the background. How many of you have never experienced this? You see, everybody has. So this is a common thing. Now, when we feel like we are no longer important, when we feel like we are a piece of paper on the wall, how do you think we should do? How do you think we should do? How do you think we should do? Anyone? Sad? Sad? Yes. So feeling sad is the beginning of acceptance. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad because we're going through so much. We are becoming invisible. Imagine when you're in your 20s, you want to be visible, you want to be visible, you want to be visible. Then as you get older, you want to become more and more visible. You become more and more in the background. And this has been our trajectory, not just in Malaysia, but globally. And it's been going on for many decades, especially since we live in a very patriarchal society, where we highlight the men and downplay the women. And I was talking to a friend who is from Denmark, and she was telling me the same thing. In my friend circle, we push our husband to the forefront and take care of their needs and take care of our kids' needs and take care of everything. And we ourselves, and these are all like, graduate students, right? We ourselves just disappear. Right? So we feel emotionally drained. So your symptoms, whatever they are real. They're not just stress, they're not just burnout, or they're not just simply getting old. They're not just simply getting old. We go through a lot. The transition is not only biological, it is neurological, physiological, psychological, and is deeply, deeply personal. No one goes through this transition the same way. Some people go through it through this kind of EEG mood swings. Some people go through it like as if they're none. Some people go through it in modulation. Some people go through it, really down and then up again, like a tsunami. We all go through it differently at different stages in our lives. So today I think you deserve to understand what is happening not just in your body, but in your mind. Because the most important element of surviving this transition into a high quality life in your 80s or in your late 70s is your mental state. At this moment, a lot of people talk about the physiological aspects of aging. Seldom do we actually talk about the mental and psychological aspects of aging. And this is a shame because you can do all your hormone therapy, stem cell therapy, any therapies that you are doing. But if you are not taking care of your emotional state, your mental state, the quality of life somehow will not really really right. So hormones is a very available fact. Yeah, it's a very available fact. Yeah. So okay. And I hope that to share a little bit, to empower you to. So I think Dr. Krita spoke a little bit about this, your brain on hormonal transition. Your brain on hormonal transition equals to its stages. Serotonin, estrogen directly affects your feel-good neurotransmitters. When those estrogen levels drop, your mood and your motivation drops. I'm going to talk about the neuroscience pathways that leads to anxiety and sensitivity. Your hormones fluctuation can trigger anxiety, irritability, emotional reactivity, even if you have never experienced this. Focus and executive function. Reduce estrogen impact concentration, decision making, ability to juggle multiple demands. So I was talking to someone from HR in a very big business company in Malaysia because they wanted us to talk. And I said, I looked at their sheets of people that they could hire. And a lot of them, I asked the HR director, why do you hire this person? Why do you not? It's not this person, cannot concentrate. This person, suddenly decision making is not very good. This person, so our society do not take into account the symptoms that we experience in perimenopause and menopause. They just describe us. Very common. The feeling of getting worse, losing track, or feeling something that I'm not myself. This is neurological. It's not a character problem. It's a neurological transition. So a lot of these things are happening to us. Is it good or is it bad? It's neither. It's neither good, it's neither bad. What it is what it is. This is just a physiological change. Any questions on this? Any questions on this?
Does it ever get better? Or it's always stays like that?
This is like this. This will always happen. Right? You cannot change. Right? You cannot change. You cannot stop growing old. You cannot stop having menses. This will always happen. But how do we act to that? How we manage it? How we control it? How we grow into it? That's the key to anti-aging of the brain, of course. Right? That's the key. Our attitude, our character. And I explained to you earlier that your generation is the most adaptive generation ever among mankind. So now you have to make this adaptation in the best way that you can, using all the experiences that you have learned in your lifetime in adapting to the environment. And it's very challenging because no other generations are like yours. No one. They're the first to go through this, black and white TV to 3D, 5D TV, and smart TV now, TV that comes back to you. These are some of the things that we don't experience, but rarely talk about. Do you mind reading it out? feeling emotionally numb despite having a life others would envy, unexpected rage, impatience, and overwhelm from everyday stimulation, creating space from family or partner or social obligations, a quiet loss of confidence and a changing sense of femininity, feeling invisible in groups where you once commanded attention, pulling away from friendships and social life without understanding why, heightened sensitivity to noise, conflict, and emotional dynamics around you, reading a version of yourself that seemed to vanish overnight. Thank you. Yes, all those, right? Feeling emotionally numb despite the life others would envy. All of you have a life that others would envy, but you are numb. We are numb. You know, we are like, oh my god, really I have to do that? Seriously? Do I need to do that? You know? Unexpected rage, impatience, you know, even with our kids, overwhelmed from everyday stimulation. Sometimes, you know, just seeing your mate after you tell them 10 times to do this, doing something else, will drive you nuts, right? You know, and so, you know, and then we crave for space, you know. Previously, when we were in our puberty, we want to be with people. Now we really are very selective about who we want to be. We didn't want to isolate everybody, we are selective. We have learned to not waste time with people that we don't need to waste time with. You prefer the Netflix. And then we go through this quiet loss of confidence, we go through a changing sense of stability, you know. And all these things are what we experience, right? But we rarely talk about. So I'm hoping that you know today we can open up this topic and talk about all these things. And I'm sure Chrissy and Angelia and all that, you know, I think you should create platforms for this to talk about all these things. Next comes the hidden emotional load that we have. And I'm going to get someone else to talk about maybe this. The hidden emotional load. And this is not all. We're going to focus on it. When you have nice and real scary emotional weight, everyone around you, often without anyone saying. You may be a caregiver, professional, mother, husband, and partner, all at once, all of the time. The moral transition is not create solution out of nowhere. It exposes years of accumulated suppressed stress. Perimenopause can feel like a resistance fight saying, I cannot keep doing this the way I am. This is not a breakdown. It's your body asking for a new way of living. Is your body asking for a new way of living? It doesn't want the old way. It doesn't want you to rush around and worry about everything and think habits and being difficult. It doesn't want you to do that. It doesn't want you to carry that burden, most of which do not belong to you. You carry the burden of your husband, your children, your family, your name, your career, your company, whatever. And your body is saying, hey guys, enough. I'm tired. I'm really tired. Chill. So the discrepancy between what you can biologically do and what your mind wants to do becomes wider. It becomes like your mind wants to do 1,000 things, but your body is like, sorry, I'm tired, Your mind wants to go shopping, wants to go this, wants to do this, wants to buy this, wants to go see the doctor, wants to go to the gym, wants to go to swim. Your mind is saying, no, I'm just going to sit here and watch Netflix. Yeah. Right? And that's how it is. But this is not a breakdown. This is your system telling you that, hey, we want to change. Work with us. Don't work against us. Right? And so these are all the hidden communication that your nervous system, that your brain, that your neurons are trying to communicate to you about. But you have never had time to stop and listen. And all this happens, why does it happen? Silently. It happens silently. And you're not quite aware of it. It's not like it's there, sitting and saying, hey, hi. It's not. It just happens suddenly. It let you do it, 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 it let you do it. Whatever it says, why not let you use it? For example, it let you read in the dark, read in the dark, read in the dark, look at your phone, look at your phone, look at your phone, and then one day it says, no, I'm not letting you do this anymore. You can't find it. It says, I let you go to the gym, I let you go to the gym, I let you go to the gym, I let you do this, I let you do this, I let you do this. And then one day it says, no, I'm not letting you do this anymore. You have a massive question. Your body is affected. The central nervous system is overwhelmed. And when your central nervous system is overwhelmed, as you may know, I'm very interested in neuroscience, and neuroscience is kind of like permeating into a lot of other industries like medical, clinical, and development. Because at the base of neuroscience is spiritual part. And again, these parts are all very deeply ingrained in every one of us. But we have to kind of like step back now. We don't have monthly hormonal changes that we need to live with anymore. We don't have young kids that we need to chase after anymore. Why? Why did God design us this way? Why do you think? Why do you think? We don't have information. What do you think?
Okay. Maybe it's how women's life stage is designed, because when you come at this stage of life, a lot of responsibilities are over and all. Is it because of that? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's because of that.
Yes. And do you adapt to that? What do you find?
Personally, I've been adapting. I think it's you become more mature and wiser at this stage of life, so it helps you to adapt it. It's my personal opinion.
So it's another adaptation. And this is perhaps the most important adaptation that we have done, or that we will do, right? So when anxiety arrives without warning, what should we do? Can you pass to somebody and what you said?
I think first we blame ourselves because we are not doing what we supposed to do. At least not safely, and then the anxiety comes from this. And then I think the outcome analysis is the best way to understand yourself and understand why I might have this anxiety. And I think it is because we're not doing the same way before. I think it's not.
Yeah, I get the point. What I say is that, maybe it's, we don't know, and we're not doing things, what the way that we should be doing. I get that, but when anxiety arises without warning, because anxiety will arise. Every single one of you in this room have at one time or another experienced anxiety. Even if you have never experienced anxiety when you were younger, you will experience anxiety once you enter the perimenopause 45 minutes, at least once, right? If not anything else. So women with no prior history of anxiety will develop it during perimenopause. And it can feel bewildering because in my clinic, I have a lot of C-suite executives. And they come in and they say, Dr. Soo, I'm the most confident person ever. I built the company with my husband from scratch. It's a listed company. And we are going global. And we are this and this. And I feel anxious. It's not something that I felt ever in the past. But now I'm anxious about everything. Why is this happening? Am I going crazy? And these are quite common things, right? Can you pass the mic to someone and be someone?
Fear also.
Fear? Is it something that is fear something that also besides anxiety and maybe panic attack? Something that I've experienced a panic attack 2 years ago, which I've never had before, which was really like crazy. And I was just sharing with someone who did it. I'm definitely the kind of person who is afraid of things, but now I'm afraid of pretty much everything. I'm always yeah. So, do you know why you think? I thought it was age. I don't know. Because it didn't happen straight after having my child. They say like certain things happen when you become a mother, but she's going to be 10 and it just started recently. So like yeah, before I had the fear of anything happening to her, but now it's like the fear is a lot more. Yeah, previously it might be like this.
Yeah.
Now it's like
Yeah, the fear of losing her, the fear of dying, and the fear of leaving her behind, and the fear of not doing things right. There is so many fears.
exactly. So that is also one of the anxiety things that often no one talks about, but happens so regularly. And your case is not unusual. It's very common. And if someone says that I've never experienced that, they're lying.
Is it related to the, that you kind of want to control your life for so many years and suddenly you feel that life is slipping away because it's not in your control anymore. So every little thing you just get so anxious about it. Is it?
Yeah, you can say that, but again, you went through 45 years without feeling it. And then, one day, you're just sitting and you're just looking at your child or looking at your husband, and suddenly you have this fear. So it comes so silently.
What you say is not a behavioral thing, it's a chemical thing that happens to us.
Okay, so this is the thing. It's not just chemical. It's not just chemical. It's also the frequency, the electrical. From a neuroscience perspective, the frequency. It's not just about the hormones. Like I know a lot of people that have gone through hormone replacement and they still have pain. I know a lot of people have gone through stem cells and they still have pain effects. Right. So so when I see that happening, and these kind of treatments really expensive. And then, and they hope to do this treatment because they want to get feel younger. And why do they want to feel younger? They want to feel younger because they hate this fear. They hate this anxiety. This foreboding that something bad is going to happen. When you know deep down, nothing bad is going to happen. But you just feel like something bad. And it's like your emotions is gaslighting. It's trying to make you doubt whether you are, what you're thinking is correct or wrong. Yes?
Could it have to do with the fear of letting go of what you know, which is 45 years? You know how life is, and now you have to embrace what you don't know. And also, could it also be related to the fear of aging? A lot of women don't want to age, for whatever reason. I'm not saying that position is for women, but for a lot of us, aging is considered bad. And then the fear of going into a phase that for society is considered bad because women are prostitutes, right? That many kinds of but is scary. Right? So it could be because of all these triggers.
It's because of all those things. And also because when we are younger, we know what to do because our whole society tells us what we should be doing. Like when you are young, you're supposed to go to school. When you reach a certain age, you're supposed to go to university, otherwise you will work. When you're working, you're supposed to build a career. After you get your career, you're supposed to get married. After you get married, you're supposed to have kids. So you know what to do next. Even if you don't do it, but you still know what to do next. But now you're coming to a stage when there's no more roadmaps, where the map stops, where ways don't work anymore. And Google Maps forget about it. And so now you have to map your own future. And that's where the anxiety comes. That's where we women feel that I think I should write my will. I think I should write my will. I think, oh my god, imagine if anything happens to me, what's going to happen to my child? Who's going to take care of my child during the day? I have to do this. No. Oh my god, I have to stay alive. And the more you think I have to stay alive, you are training your subconscious mind to say that you're going to die. So you know how the subconscious mind works, right? The law of attraction. So the more you think, something bad is going to happen, something bad is going to happen, what are you doing? You're attracting it, right? But how are you not going to attract it? So there's a difference between worry and panic. You plan for things, but you don't worry about things. That's the tool number one that I'm giving you today. You want to write it down? No point to worry. Instead, what should you be doing? Planning. Write your will, write your letters, plot your strategy. You have so much experience. You you're going to put it to good use, not for your family, not for your children, not for your husband, not for your company, not for your family, not for anything. You're going to put it to good use for yourself. For the first time in your life, you have to focus, and your whole developmental phase forces you to do that. It pushes you to do it. And it's scary, and we will get panic attacks for it. And sometimes we will get depressed because we think, oh my God, is this all that is? Like, I'm almost at the end of my life, is this all that is to life? Yes, that's all there is to life. Good luck with the next part of your life, but, make the most of it. Does that make sense? So, your hormone fluctuation directly impacts your autonomic nervous system, triggering fight or flight responses more easily. So, what you need to do, you have to figure out, plan how, when this is triggered, how you are going to manage this. Right? It's all about management. But here is the thing: it's not easy. We women have a very bad habit. In fact, God made us this way. So, in a lot of ways, God is that's a big point here. They make us nurture others rather than ourselves. And so they're so busy nurturing others, and we should feel so comfortable from young nurturing others that when it comes to nurturing ourselves, we get scared. We feel guilty. We feel ashamed. I'm so old. No one wants me to nurture them anymore. Oh my God. How can I use myself? Because I'm so old. My kids will not need anymore. Oh, well, this kind of things we feel. And because, God says, all right, I build you, I design you to take care of people, but now that I'm stopping your reproductive stage, and I'm going to give you a better quality of life. But how many of us knows how to take on this quality of life? And that's because our society is not built to support us. Our society just wants us out of the way. Our kids want us, okay, mom, enough to talk anymore. I don't want to hear. Our husband said, okay, don't like me, I don't want to hear. And then we are thinking, wow, 45 years, I brought all of them up like this, and this is how what I get in return. So we feel unfair. We feel like, hey, this is so damn unfair. This is not fair on women. And so that's the inequality is. But do we do anything about it? No, we suffer. Because they're very right? And then we ask ourselves, why am I not happy? No. Isn't it obvious? Alright, so, but having said that, there's also your blood sugar and all these things that you have to do there. Now, I'm not going to talk about this one because this is actually quite important. If you have a trauma history, like if you have a traumatic childhood or a trauma in the past, perimenopause, not menopause, perimenopause can bring back old wounds to surface during this vulnerable phase. Whatever that you suffered in your life, okay, I have a patient, everything that I said today, I talk his days here, right? Yes. Television, she was straight when she was very young, so she has a lot of trauma, right? She was perfectly highly functioning, doing very well in life until she hits perimenopause. Her fear came in like nightmares. Like she started to have problems sleeping. She can't sleep at night because her mind is just thinking, of all sorts of things, And she did not associate it to the trauma that she had that was not resolved when she was a young child. So basically during this perimenopause stage, that is before your period starts, you go through this stage where you are kind of like revealing your entire life. Like people say when you die, your whole life flashes before you. Actually, in perimenopause, it does that in a very needy way. In a very needy way. It doesn't, when you reveal your life. It's not like whole time where you sit there and thinking, no. Like it comes in little bits and pieces and bits and pieces and bits and pieces. I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about, right? Who doesn't know what I'm talking about?
Is it the memory of the brain or what you have been carrying there for so many years?
Yes.
Is it the memory of the brain? Because of course, like in your mind, you have like come out of after that trauma like 30, 40 years later. But this there's somewhere that that memory is stored in the brain. Does that come right?
So as our brain ages, as the telomere has shown up, and the memories that when we were younger, that we were able to suppress and oppress, suddenly it doesn't want to be oppressed anymore. It doesn't want you to suppress it anymore. It wants to come out. And it either come out with, through an emotional way, or it come out in a physical way. Physical means you get cancer, you get some problems, you get cysts, or it comes up in an emotional way, you get emotional, you get this. So what are you doing? You are grieving. You are going through the 5 stages of grief. And the 5 stages of grief, I know there are a lot of therapists here. What are the 5 stages of grief? Anyone can tell me what are the 5 stages of grief?
Acceptance.
Acceptance, yes, good. Denial, acceptance. What else? 5 stages? Acceptance is realization. Anger, very good. And what else? Accepting is releasing. So you go through this 5 stages. First, you deny it. You deny it. Second, you bargain. No lah, I still can do lah. I can still go to the gym and run. I can still go and do marathon. I can still do this. I can still do that. Bargaining. Third, depression. Oh my God, is that all there is? Look at how my husband is treating me. How dare he shout at me? My kids ignore me. How dare they do that depression? Then anger. Oh, I do so much for them. And this is what I get back in return, is it? Yeah, and then after that, acceptance. Okay, actually, maybe I'm busy. Maybe it is. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Maybe I don't have to go after that job anymore. Maybe I, so then it becomes acceptance. But you will cycle through these 5 stages of grief again and again and again and again until you menopause. Until your periods. So basically, everything that you suppress will emerge. How it emerges is your control. And even me myself, I find it very difficult to see myself in my own state of unbalance. So I have a supervisor in Australia. I've been supervising PCs for a few years. And before after the moment I wrote my ticket back to Australia, I'll call my supervisor, she's already in the 80s, and say, okay, I'm booking a session. And because, having someone who and tell me what I'm going through, even though I'm thoroughly with a lot of experience, I can't see what I'm going through. Because I am going through. You see what I mean? So me and my supervisor have been through. She has to stay alive until alright. So understanding what is happening is your first step towards feeling that you are gaining back control, self-awareness. Now this self-awareness cannot be gained. That's why one way to gain it is to grow into it. You have to allow yourself to grow into it. Which means that you have to allow yourself to mourn the passing of your youth. You have to allow yourself to mourn the passing of your menstruation. Something that you came when you were younger, and now you're moving the passing of it. So all those things. Depression, burnout, hormones, right? Okay, I've got a lot of slides, so I'm just going to do whatever I can, but I've got 32 slides and I'll finish one. Depression, burnout, hormones. Sometimes it's all three, right? The key is understanding which track, hormonal change. Alright, I need someone to read this up. Pass the mic to somebody. Somebody is please. Yes.
See. Depression, burnout, or hormones. So hormonal mood changes often mistaken for depression alone. The pattern of symptoms linked to your cycle offers important clues. Chronic burnout. Years of overfunctioning can mimic depressive symptoms. Your body may be exhausted, not chemically imbalanced. Gut and inflammation. Poor gut health and systematic
Inflammation directly influences your mood, energy, and emotional resilience. Whole person assessment. A functional approach examines hormones, inflammation, nutrient status, skin quality, and stress loads together.
So, normally when you go through perimenopause and menopause, we're going through all this too. And what we need to do is, yes, we need to balance our hormones. Yes, we need to understand that there's a chemical imbalance, not just going crazy. Yes, I want to talk today about the gut and inflammation. You know that if you have fear, or if you are going through panic attacks, or if you have anxiety, if you reduce the inflammation in your body, research has shown that your anxiety will reduce automatically. Because your body is not in a fight or flight mode. It's not inflammation. What is inflammation? Anyone? I know there's a lot of people here that are very good at taking care of themselves. What is inflammation? Anyone?
Who wants to say? What is information?
What is inflammation? Anyone?
It's the irritation or the abrasiveness inside the body. It's the irritation or some sort of abrasiveness inside the body somewhere.
Okay.
A rejection from something.
Okay.
When your body
Here's what we do, yeah? Here's what we do. You take your spin and you press. You press it and you press it hard and you hold it for 20 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then now you let go. Do you feel now rub it? Do you feel an indentation? If you feel an indentation, that's inflammation. For those of you who don't feel the indentation, congratulations, we got no inflammation. So those inflammations are the pre-diabetes. When anyone who has diabetes or pre-diabetes, diabetes or pre-diabetes, okay, can you come here for a moment? Okay. So okay, come on, that's pre-diabetes, diabetes. I want to type 2. So when you look at Kamal's hand, do you see that it is a bit swollen? Can you see it's a bit swollen? Can you start? Notice the difference. Can you see where I'm talking about inflammation? And when I press your skin, and when I press your skin, you will feel the difference in heat. Can you try? Warm, right? Which is warm? This is warm, right? You want to try? So what is happening now is inflammation. Inflammation is like fire that burns inside of us. And when we have inflammation, we normally actually increase all this because we will get inflammation. We need to reduce it. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. Thank you so much. So inflammation is very real, and you can feel it, you can see it, and it causes our nerves to degenerate and die, and it becomes serious. We even have to amputate some organs and all that because it causes injury. And all this is the product of inflammation. But all of us have inflammation in some form or levels, especially in our gut. So the first thing, if you want for people who are perimenopause and menopause, my recommendation is fixing that. Because the gut and brain axis is very real. The gut and brain axis is very real. But when you have the stomach ache, there's absolutely no way that we can think about anything except to fix all the stuff. Alright? When we have stomach cramps, dysmenorrhea, like stomach cramps, when you have there's no way that we can go out and be like super sharp and give a presentation and all this kind of thing. We can't because our gut rules over our brain. And why? Because we have more neurotransmitters in our gut than in our brain. So we have to take care of our brain. And to take care of our brain, we have to take care of our gut. Make sense? Make sense? So shall we do it as a group? Like everybody starts to take care of their gut? Yes. Yay! So plants that you can do. Cut sugar, fantastic. The most difficult thing that you cut sugar, cut carbs. What else? Drink more water. Thank you very much. No coffee. No coffee. Coffee? Oh no, I must have my coffee. Yes.
Probiotics.
Probiotics. Yes, probiotics is really good. No alcohol. And no alcohol. Yes. Why you want alcohol?
I'm sorry.
Why you want alcohol? Why you want alcohol?
Because it's sugar.
Because
It's sugar.
alcohol is sugar. If you drink a bottle of wine this much, it's like drinking this much of sugar. And then okay, this is more towards men. So the men will come to me and say, oh doctor, my wife is a very good cook. She cooks healthy for me every day. But you know, I don't know why I still put on weight. And then I said, you drink? And then he said, I don't drink very much water. I drink one bottle of wine a night. And I said, one bottle of wine. Okay, and then when you eat healthy and then you're wondering why, and you have sugar spikes. So I slapped the CPM on them. You know what the CPM is, right? Continuous glucose monitor. I said, okay, every time you drink this wine, check the glucose. And then they will realize that it was a spike in the glucose. So this is what we. Any questions? No question? Then let me read the next slide. What do you see?
The gut-brain hormone connection. Your gut microbiome is a powerful player in mood regulation, immunity, and hormone metabolism, and also in hemolysis. Estrogen recycling is influenced by specific gut bacteria. When gut health declines, hormone balance suffers. Poor gut diversity may be contributing to bloating, persistent fatigue, and chronic low-grade inflammation. Your gut produces many of the neurotransmitters linked to emotional well-being, including serotonin. Healing your gut is not just about digestion, it is a pathway to better mood, better sleep, and better hormonal health.
So healing your gut is not just about digestion, it's about the pathway to better mood, better sleep, better hormonal health. Sure.
Can you switch up the power? Yeah, is this on the TV went up? Yeah. The TV went on. It's okay. You can see right now.
Can you see?
Not really. It's a bit small, but it's okay.
I want to show you an actual gut profile. So this lady, she is very healthy, she is a marathon runner, she does this, she does that. So I did a stool test for her. I did a 16 SRNA stool test on her. And she is very well. In fact, she's the one that gives me all the kimchi in the world. You know, every time she comes to possession, she drinks kimchi. So I call her my kimchi lady. But when I look at the gut, and this is the most recent one, we have noted, we know what a normal gut bacteria should look like. So this is for men, this is for female. So you look at the female one because my anticipation is female. So this is what a normal average gut microbe should look like, right? This amount of bacteria, this amount in this kind of but look at hers. Oh, this one here is male, and this is female. And this is the actual output, right? So we can see here, this is, if you have a very healthy gut microbe, your gut microbe should look like this. If your gut microbe looks like this, it means that you have an issue inside your gut. That means your ecological system inside your gut is not healthy. And when the ecological system inside your gut is not healthy, of course, you are more prone to mental illness.
What is the name
I
of
think
this
it's
exam?
families, right? So this is a someone test. It's called the 16S RRNA stool test. 16S RRNA stool test. So we give you a kit, you take it home, you cook, and then you send us back a sample of your cook, and then we will send the cook to the lab, and then from the lab we will synthesize it, and then we will see what it is. You can show it coordinator, you can use it coordinator, sure. So this lady came to see me because she has severe anxiety, depression, and also she is very fearful that she might have early onset dementia. So, and then I said, okay, so there is a very close correlation between her gut microbe and dementia. You know that, right? Yeah, it's very close. You know, there's so much research. We cannot deny the research results. We cannot deny it. So when people talk to me about perimenopause and menopause, the first thing I do is check. And then from the gut, I can tell, oh my God, I might have depression. Look at what's happening inside the stomach. Remember that we cannot digest food. We humans cannot digest food. It's the bacteria in our stomach that digest the food for us. And then convert it into nutrients that we can absorb. Otherwise, I know a lot of people, they tell me, especially because, I come from an ethnically Chinese background, they say, I think it's Chinese herb, I think it's Chinese herb, I bought this Chinese herb for 5,000 ringgit, I bought this one for 10,000 ringgit, I'm taking all this. Doesn't work. I check their microbiome, the herbs are good, but the body cannot absorb it. And as we go older, our body, our gut microbiome, especially during perimenopause, will start to change. So it's not just our hormones that's changing, it's also the bacteria in our stomach. And this is a perfect example of it. Perfect. Look at her gut bacteria. She has got a lot of bacteria idiota. This is the bacteria idiota. She's got a lot of that. But look at her Actimocytophen. Actimocytophen is almost nothing. So there is a lot, that you can see here. So if you cannot sleep, if you're having some, and this doesn't mean that you will have bloatedness or anything like that. It's not. This is about the actual digestive gut-brain axis. It's silent. It's a very silent shift.
So what does this person do? So after this person in your patient, this result, we should do something, alright?
Yeah. So what we do is we see which bacteria. All these are the names of the bacteria. You want to come and read out the names of the bacteria?
Yeah, it's very small. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, I didn't do that close. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Okay, so these are all the names of the bacteria. So we will synthesize the bacteria from the stool, right? And then we will identify which are the bacteria. So then we find the culprit. And we know that if this bacteria, let's say for example, if your life is like the country, or like the universe, if you have so little of this of the police, then we think you can control the country. No, right? So this one we have to have it more balanced, and this one we can see is more balanced. So what we do, we take the bacteria that is not balanced, that she has too little of, and then we give her the bacteria to take.
Is it something like probiotic?
No, it's not going to be asteroid.
So it's like a medication as well.
It's prescription.
It's a prescription like form of medicine.
Yes,
That happened to me.
Oh, it happened to you, right? Can you explain? Okay, please.
I have that problem since I never had that problem, and I started having that problem after I was 46.
46.
Yeah. So I couldn't diarrhea or constipation, yes. And then in 2008, so when I was 50, so 6 years later,
6 years
like the on and off, it was just more. I realized I did the GMAT. In Brazil they call GMAT, so that is the DNA thing.
Yes, the DNA.
Yeah. And then it came that I was intolerant to gluten and lactose, which I didn't know. And it was so bad, my inflammation, that I couldn't move anymore. My joint pain, so very strong.
And then so I had to take everything out of my diet. I had to do the Monash diet, take everything out, couldn't eat anything, and to discover what I could eat again. But then they also found out that I didn't have akkermansia.
Oh.
This is a kind of bacteria that's very important to prevent dementia and everything. Like my body did not produce this bacteria. So today, every morning, I have to take a capsule of akkermansia. So I just redone my test. It's not still perfect. I'm actually with the probably the senior doctor again when I'm in Brazil next week. But the akkermansia is already there now. Before was zero. So now it's in green already after 1 year, taking every morning. But she said you're gonna have to take it for life because your body just not produces it. So it's exactly that. And after I started the treatment, the brain fog got better. And my skin rashes and no more condition, no more pain in the joints. But still the gut is not working 100% well yet. So, but the joints and the brain fog got much better.
Very good. And when the joint and the brain fog gets better, it means that the inflammation gets reduced and oxidative stress gets reduced as well. Thank you for that sharing. Can we like that? So this is real. From a neuroscience perspective, your gut is very, very important on how you transition through the final part of your needs, that is post-menopause. How you transition, because your gut and all this have been fighting to keep you alive for years. And when I said, remember earlier in the slides, I said, one day your nervous system just says, I have enough. It's the bacteria. The bacteria is like, I'm giving up on you. I'm leaving, I'm not going to be here anymore because we destroy our internal ecological system. We destroy the universe, so come on, they destroy us. Because we cannot live. Humans cannot survive without bacteria. It's facts. And when we stress ourselves, take care of others, don't care, eat nonsense, eat processed food, eat this, we kill everything that is in our gut. And then after that, we expect karma not to come back. Earlier, I asked you to take a selfie. Everything that you see in the selfie is karma. What you did to your gut is doing back to you. See? In a very simple, nutshell way.
Dr. Lennie,
Yes.
what's the name again of this test?
It's called, it is a GMAT test. It's very popular in Australia and all of these days, for, especially for like perimenopause people. It's called 16S RRNA. So basically, we test the RRNA of the microbes. And then it will tell us things like this, like the diversity. It will tell us about the genera. It will tell us about weight reduction. So some people, as we get into perimenopause, why is it that I don't eat anything, I still put on weight?
Yes.
Like I breathe air and I put on weight. Seriously, what is going on here? It's because of your gut. You breathe air and you put on weight, that's because of your gut. What are the bacteria that you see? See, here you have to input an average, but this person got 0. Of course, she's in the red zone. That means the moment she breathes, she puts on weight. So this is some of the findings that I would like to share with you. Yeah. Another test that I think is kind of important. I'm not sure whether Dr. Purita covered this or not, but I'll just quickly cover it. Your genes also influence your wellness, and our DNA is basically a blueprint of how God designed us. So when you have a DNA test, it tells you, oh, so God designed me to hate gluten. God didn't design me to eat gluten food. God didn't design me to, to take this kind of thing. God didn't design me. So you have your blueprint, and then all your blood tests, all your screening and all this is just like a photograph. So imagine that the DNA is you're building a home. Your DNA is the blueprint, the architectural blueprint of the building that you're going to build. And then your blood test is a photograph that you take of the building. Right? So this is another thing that you have to maybe have time to look at it. Your genetics influence how you respond to stress, how to detoxify hormones, and how your neurotransmitters function. DNA wellness profiling reveals predisposition related to anxiety, hormonal detoxification, sleep, biology, inflammation. I'll show you an actual one. But for those of you who have done it, you only need to do it once. If you have done it, don't do it. Just send it to your doctor. If you haven't done it, then you might want to consider doing it. If your perimenopause and menopause symptoms are really bad. So this is some of the interesting things that you get as you get older. It tells you what kind of cancers that you're likely to have. It tells you your lifestyle. This is the health link, like what kind of health problems that you're going to have. Basically, how you can, if you don't take care of yourself, what's going to happen.
I'm so really resistant. Even though it was what is this 16 is and I think that she's
Actually, all the DNA tests are okay, but the ones that you want to have are really ones. The ones that don't care about your ancestry, all this nonsense, we just want to care about your cancer. We want to care about this because this will tell you what kind of diseases that you are going to take, and it will predict the drug sensitivity. As we get older, into perimenopause and menopause, a lot of these common drugs are the drugs that when we go to hospital, the doctor will give us. And if you have sensitivity to this drug, you have to tell the doctor, show this report to the doctor and say, please don't give me these drugs. Because this drug can actually cause, because in Malaysia every year, 5,000 over people die of ADR. Do you know what ADR is? No. ADR stands for adverse drug reaction.
wow.
And I worked with Lennie Soo. I was a secretary in Lennie for many, many years, and we tracked the hospital's data that shows us how many people actually died of adverse drug reaction. One of the most famous cases a few years ago was Zayed's son-in-law. Zayed is our deputy prime minister. The son-in-law went for a dental visit, and they just injected a local anesthesia into his mouth. It was the wrong, he was allergic to it, he died on the day. You can Google it, it's a very big story. But he was highlighted because he's, the deputy prime minister's son-in-law. But what about the other 4,999 ones that died that no one ever talked about? And as we grow older, the risk of us getting into this kind of situation is higher. So that's why we believe that's going to be interesting. And what else? So the DNA will also tell you that as we get older, we need to basically eat according to our DNA, eat according to how God designed your body to be. And basically, that means these are the results that we get. So it will tell you your nutrition needs. If you see red, that means you need more of. If you see green, that means whatever you're taking is good enough. It shows your food and dietary sensitivity. It shows your results of your well-being and inflammatory results of your fitness, whether you're at risk of injury or anything like that. It shows all of that. Red means bad, green means okay for this person. And in terms of your personality, it talks about it's in your genes. For example, whether you are open or whether you are closed is in your genes. whether you're an extrovert or whether you're not an extrovert is in your genes. Whether you are resilient or you're not resilient, even your gambling behavior is in your genes. Yes. Yeah. So, does anyone want to come up here and read the list?
Um, I have a question.
You want to come up here and read the list?
I actually have a question.
Sure, sure.
That kimchi lady, right? You said she had depression, right? Because of her gut. So you said she had depression because of her gut. My question is that if as somebody who has a mental illness, does that mean that it's also related to the gut because it can be like from young?
Oh my god, that's a very good question. So I have been dealing with a lot of ADHD. One of my research is to see whether I can convert ADHD to become more normal, like reduce the frequency of the transmission of the neurotransmitters, because ADHD people they think too much and then that's why they don't focus. And I've been working on that for many, many years in my research. And I found that if you control the diet of an ADHD child, the child can normalize. And I've done it in many, many cases.
But
Your daughter, can you share please about your case?
but only ADHD or
Autistic also. I've done ADHD and then autistic, I'm not the severe, even the severe autistic, and I've done non-verbals as well. So non-verbals and they become more, less symptomatic. Yeah. Wait, can you share? Can you share with us your story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter has an ADHD, very mild level, and we went, I think 3 years ago, went to doctor in France, and then he explained us about therapy, medication, and also about the diet. And he told us the only change of diet means maybe 50% improvement. And he wants to give her a reasoning correctly. And I said, no, I don't agree with this. So I will try to diet. Well, and they gave me therapy. Then I did a lot of research, and here later we found a nutritionist, a Brazilian one as well, and then she changed a little bit the diet. And since then, we started to change a little bit the diet. But with this nutritionist, we changed a little bit the diet. And she improves a lot. Useful behavior, sleep as well, because she's less inflamed. And that's the point. So basically, it's no sugar, no food coloring, no artificial food, no food, and then less, a lot of protein.
Thank you for sharing. So, we can also see, for example, what kind of mental illness that a person in might have. And then from there, we can actually. Okay, so the DNA can tell whether you have ADHD genes, depression genes, autism genes, panic disorder genes, all these genes. So now, if you are perimenopause, you've done your DNA. The DNA doesn't show that you have panic attack, but in your perimenopause, you have a panic attack. So we actually should treat that differently because it is not genetic in nature. It is like for you, you're probably not genetic in nature. Like when I do your DNA, it doesn't come out that you have a panic attack genes. But that means your perimenopause, going through perimenopause, you start to develop the fear. You start to develop fear. And the fear development, the next thing I will do is the school test, clinical school, the microwave that is triggering the fight or flight in your nervous system and overwhelming your nervous system, making you feel fear. So this is how we can look at things now, not from just symptomology, not from just the symptoms, but from the root cause. And with AI and everything else, now our treatment is going right down to your genes. And I'll show you how we do the genes test and how deep we go. We look at the genes. This is the number of the genes. We look at the genotypes. That is, we need the gene that is the genotype. We look at the genotype and then we look at the results. So we slice the genes into very, very small particles to know all this human crisis. So these are the kind of interesting results that we get when we look at the perimenopause and when we look at menopause. Do you have any questions about this? If not, I will continue. Okay. Yes.
So, who will be the first one to ask questions that you have?
Oh, if you want to share, it's fine.
You want to share something?
I think you were mentioning about the trauma wounds and how they become back at perimenopause. What is this is like my situation. I have severe, I don't even know how to call it. My therapist said is like I can't remember pretty much anything of my childhood, my young age. So she said it's trauma, whatever happened, I don't know. That happened and my brain trained my body to every time something happens to forget. So the tendency is that I don't remember anything. So in the present, I think, how is it going to be? Because I'm trying to prepare myself for what's to come. Because I don't even know. When you said that, I was like, oh my god.
So your body keeps lost and your mind keeps acting. Even though a lot of traumatic children, they cannot remember what happened to them. I'll give you an example. In Australia, when I was working with the CSI part of the government, and we were treating traumatized children, and we find that many of these children, they can continue life as normal because they don't remember what happened to them. They have no memory of what happened to them. They know that they have scars in their body because they have been diagnosed, but they don't remember much about it. So their mind has closed off that part of their life, and they don't remember that part of their life anymore. But they can just kind of like, it allows them to continue life. You know what I mean? It allows them to go on. But the problem is, when it comes to perimenopause doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to reveal everything. And so you may not remember what happened in a certain period in your life, but your body remembers it. And it will come out physiologically or emotionally. And you find yourself crying for no reason. And that is like, something trying to heal. And I find perimenopause, I'm already menopause. I find perimenopause to be very healing. If you just embrace it and accept it, it's super healing. Because it allows you, like for my case, I don't know how to cry when I was young. I was so busy just climbing the career ladder, doing this, doing that, doing talks, learning this, learning that, helping this, helping that. Oh, I think I was so busy. I don't know how to cry. Because, when in my training, where I can allow other people to cry, I'm sitting there just analyzing that, seeing as like, I'm not crying. When I came to that career, of course, I learned how to cry again. It's not that I don't have empathy, it's just that tears come so much more easily. You know what I mean? But I don't have to have this strong wall, like, I want to have a strong wall. I feel that I can cry about these things. That is so cute. And when it comes out in very embarrassing situations, but that's another story. But I worry about it comes out. So I'm healing. And I find the perimenopause thing, depending on how we manage it, is very healing. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. I did my homework. So, Dr. Lennie, do you think that women who are constantly searching for something, for example, often say things like, I don't know how long I will stay here, or never feeling fully settled, may experience perimenopause more intensely emotionally, especially for women living abroad, who this constant feeling of never know what's next or lack of belonging make this phrase even more challenging. This is for my foreigners country, like my foreigners friends and people who are not from this country, that some things can change even more.
It can go in two ways. Right? It can go two ways. But insecurity is part of perimenopause and menopause. But when you are in a foreign country and you are not sure, you don't have the kind of support that you have at home, it gets worse. It really can be quite bad. And I know a lot of expat women, not on Instagram of course, but I know a lot of expat women who isolate themselves. They isolate themselves. And some of them are working here as an expatriate overseas. And what they do is, the moment they finish work, they go home. And then they just stay at home. They don't socialize, or they go out drinking, drink their plates, get drunk. Then after they go home, then they come to see information. Means whether they are working or not working, whether they are vice here or they are working career in India, it is much harder. It is much harder.
So another point about this, excuse me, woman, it's because for us, and I got also that this going to perimenopause, it's like, you are like, everything is really crazy, or you feel like you don't know yourself. It's very difficult for us to just pack the baggage and leave the country. So we don't know where to go. It's not easy for us to just pack, okay, fine. So you have to buy a ticket. You don't know where to go anymore because you're going to see it. So that's one of the things, is also the reason to start to bring more this conversation also for foreigners ladies here. We also have to, we have these things in common. Like, this is our home. I have been in Malaysia for 10 years. But sometimes it's not easy to just pack your stuff. Plus, you don't have support from family, friends, and people who are very close to you. You have friends who become family, that's true. But it's very, the things, it's like you're going back to the inner child. Like you feel like so alone, so lost. And then I think this is one of the things that was really bad for me. I felt I was going crazy when I discovered that I was going to perimenopause, because the feeling was like I want to pack my stuff and leave the country, but where do I go? So it's a lot of things that it becomes more difficult, because this is our home today. Tomorrow, yeah, I know. Tomorrow, who knows if we are here anyway. But this is the things that are very strong, and I also talk to our friends who are strong, some of them, about the same feeling. That comes the feeling of not belonging. So there's a lot of things becomes a little more strong, that you don't belong to the country, you don't belong to the society, you don't know, it's Western, it's Asian. So there's a lot of things that we go through in a very different way. And we want to be visible. That's why I want to share my home. That's really, thank you. That's very, very true.
How many of you feel men, right? Sometimes you just want to pack your bags and just go. But then where do you go to? Where do you go to? So support system as we get older is really important. And we women really have to support each other. Truly, right? Because the men, they're very helpful, but they don't know what they're going through. They really don't, and they're going through their own midlife crisis. They're going through their own midlife crisis, and they are not really trying to understand what they're going through. So it is very difficult and very difficult. Right? So having a community, being part of the community, I find that perimenopause is quite difficult because of it makes you keep thinking about everything. But as you get closer to menopause, you come to this clarity, of what is it that you find to be meaningful in your life. Some people, that's where you see a lot of us go into charity. That's where you see a lot of us go into projects. That's where you see a lot of us starting, so we outgrow the motherhood. We grow from motherhood, to communityhood. And if you can transition out from motherhood into communityhood, then your quality of life, which is the most important thing for every human being, will definitely improve, and it will reduce your fear. Because as humans, we cannot be patient on the wall and say, well, that's my grandmother, I'll see her whenever I feel like it. That makes us invisible. we, as we age, we need that visibility. Our society, our community no longer have a role for us that is defined. In the old days, all those who are women like us, we become like the shamans. We become like, the people in the temples, or in the millions, and in the Egyptian, we have a role. But now in modern society, we don't have a role. We have to define this role ourselves. We have to find our own footing. We have to open frontiers. And I find that after you menopause, and after having gone through that turbulent transition from perimenopause to menopause, you will develop something that is very, very unique to women. And I'm not talking just like wisdom just by words, but the deep inner knowing, the deep inner knowing, the deep inner acceptance, the deep inner, the deep inner kind of like, it's not even knowledge, it's just a knowing. And it's not even intuition. It's not the intuition that you have when you're in your 20s or in your 30s. It's just the deep understanding of things. The way I like to see it is that, when we are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, our roots are growing horizontal. But as we age, it goes deep. And that is, and that is where the tree, which is life, finally can bloom. Because as long as the root of the tree is growing horizontally, it is not stable. But as you pass menopause, it goes deep. It starts to grow downwards. So your layers are more complex. They are not as simple as a 7-year-old child or a 17-year-old girl, or even a 27-year-old or 37-year-old. It's so much deeper. And that depth, unfortunately, in this modern society, no one appreciates. No one appreciates the depth. But why is it that no one appreciates it? Because we don't talk about it. Because we suppress it. Because we ourselves do not acknowledge it. And we ourselves do not, we are trying to be 30 when we're not 30. People talking always, I think my niece there will tell me, why didn't you dye your hair? I said, no, I'm embracing my aging. And I think we have to reach a stage where we want to embrace what we are, rather than have someone tell us what we should do. Agree, ladies?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I'm embracing me.
Yes.
Embracing me. I'm defining who I am. I decide who I want to be.
I decide who I want to be.
On that note, thank you everybody.
No more questions? No more?
Thank you. Yes. I'm happy to answer any questions. So please feel free to ask. I really close off. I don't have any more patience for the day, so
Thank you. I just want to know, based on what you just said, how do you embrace this? How do you manifest this? Because I think I find it really hard to actually go to the list of what I want to do. How do I embrace it?
that is a very good question, and most of my patients are doing the same thing. Yeah, Dr. So you say it's so easy to say, well, I embrace it. I am so lost. I am so lost, and I am so dependent on others. I feel like I'm so useless. I feel like I depend on my husband for money, and I'm eating, but I can't eat it because, he is like, so how do I define myself? It's easy to say, you be yourself. How do I do that? You need to take baby steps. You need to take baby steps. It's not easy. The transition is not easy. Just like how a cocoon turning into a butterfly is not easy. You have to take baby steps. And what does the cocoon do? What does the little one do? It slowly, day by day, scratches on the cocoon until it breaks free from the cocoon and it becomes a butterfly. So every day you have to make a little scratch, in your life. So maybe you can look at taking up a new upskilling yourself. Learning a new language. I was talking to the lady and she was in China and she learned Mandarin, and she can 真正的可以讲华语。
好，
你好。
So, and you know, just to take a little baby steps, and initially it's very scary. It's really scary to take that step because you know your confidence level is so low, and that's why you need friends. You need friends around your age that you can bounce ideas off and say, "Do you think it's crazy if I do this?" You need someone to kind of like talk to you through it. You know, do you think if I do this, will it be okay? You know, not to ask permission, but to understand yourself and reflect a little bit better through like a sounding board. So sounding board, as we enter perimenopause, is really important. In the old days, like in the native community, you know, women who are in their 40s or in their 50s, you know, they will often have a group. They will often gather and they will talk about their life and all that in what they call a circle, right? Like in a Red Indian circle and all that. And I thought that tradition is really beautiful. But we lost that tradition. We lost that tradition. I was in Iceland recently and you know, I participated in a circle with Iceland and it was beautiful, you know, all the Nordics, beautiful Nordic ladies and all that. And but you know, we don't have that, so we need to slowly form a little bit and do it and taking baby steps. One of the ladies that I know, she says to me, I'm useless, I'm hopeless, I can't do anything. And then I said, really? You're really helpless? You're really helpless? Then how do you take care of your kids? Oh, I do this. So that's where it started. You know, I said, okay, if you are so good at doing this, why don't you continue to do this, but get paid for it? Get paid for it. You know, and so she started. You know, she started to do a lot of all this small things. Another one I can tell you, I don't know whether you have heard of the brand Batik Group. Anyway, Batik Group, she's like a Batik expert, and you know, that's a premenopause project. You know, she does it as a project, and she went all over the world to study about batik prints, and then she knows so much about batik prints. So every piece of batik is a history of batik. So she will tell you this is hand-drawn, this is printed, this is from where, this is from where, this is from where. You know, you can check it out. It's called batik roots. So you know that kind of projects, you know, where you bring wisdom, you bring community together. Maybe you can try that. What do you do then? Finding out things. Okay.
So whatever is the problem, I just research.
So whatever is the problem, so research, if that research.
If I was sick, I would go and research when I was sick.
Okay.
Apply it.
But do you enjoy it? You enjoy that, you know, just finding new things and all that. Okay, all right. Yeah, so maybe get involved in a research project or something like that. You know, why don't you start with this group of women as a research subject? I'll help you publish. Something to look forward to already, right? Yeah.
Actually, another project where it was.
You have another project? Fantastic. What project do you have?
Basically, when we were started some therapy through this thing, and I was at the school as a responsibility for people with pain, so it's really
Information.
yes.
Yeah.
Clients,
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, women should help women.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. Women should help women. If any of you need my help, feel free to call me. I'm happy to help anyone. You know, I'm about to retire, so I don't really care. So, you know, I'm retired, and my post-retirement will be even more hectic than my retirement. So, you know, just feel free, you know.
Okay, another question?
Concerning what you said, when we come to another country, like my case, I think with kids, husband, you stay alone at home, and everyone has their own life, and you stay there just to be support for them. So I think it's what was missing was a little how we call it,
purpose. Since you find a purpose, your life change. My purpose was to find something to make myself useful again and work or something. And I found out that I was able to sing again. I used to have a rock and roll band and sing a rock and roll band. And when I came here, I found out all the beautiful Brazilians that were playing at a band. And then I did the switch. That I was really depressed and feel bad and etc. And then when I found out this, I found out that I could live another life, to be another person. I am the same person, but another version. You know, so we have many versions during our lives. And this is just one more.
I love that example. There you go. You know, that's a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so baby steps, starting something new, and when you hit that spot, like when you hit that meaning, it just comes so. You feel like what she just said, the switch. Like the switch just goes off, and one day you have to grab, I have to tell you one thing. In psychology, a lot of people in perimenopause and menopause, they will start, you ask them, oh, what are your goals? And guess what they will say? My goal is to be happy. My goal is to chase your happiness. Hello, that never happens. It is a good goal, but then it's too subjective. It's too subjective. You know, it's so easy to say, I want to chase your happiness. When as a psychologist, the psychologist hears that you want to chase your happiness, you know you're not happy. Because you're chasing. Because you're chasing, exactly. You know, we move towards happiness. We move towards happiness. You know, happiness is like this ideal thing that we move towards. But we must constantly be moving towards it. But we cannot say that, you know, okay, I just want to be happy. That's not concrete enough in psychology. Your mind does not understand what being happy. All it hears is unhappy. Because even while you're saying, I want to be happy, your little mind says, oh, you're so unhappy. You know, while your mouth is saying, I want to be happy, your little mind is saying, you're unhappy. You know, and the little voice in your head always wins. So don't fall into the same myth, because it is a myth, it's not real. You can't chase happiness, or you can't, I just want to be happy. That's not the goal. The goal is, okay, I think I need to fill up 6 hours of my days each day doing something that I like. That's the goal.
So switch the thought. Instead of my goal is happiness, do what makes you happy.
Exactly. Thank you. Do what makes you happy, and schedule it.
Yeah.
You know, schedule it. Yoga makes you happy, schedule 1 hour yoga. You know, dancing makes you happy, schedule 1 hour dancing. You know, and then one day you will just wake up and say, hey, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, it's a silent shift.
Because also I think this happiness should not be tied to another person. It's on you. You are taking that decision for yourself. So it should not that if someone does that, then I'll be happy. No, I do that for myself. So it's just me. I'm happy because I'm taking that decision for myself. It's not depending on someone else. I think that's a great thing that I have also realized. To something like what you mentioned, I had that shift like 2 years ago. And it was a massive shift because I was almost at a verge where I thought I've lost everything. I've lost my identity of this whole life. I'm a failure in every road that I have lived. But I had my own shift that happened, and it was that time that I reinvented myself. I proudly call myself as reinvented because I went for a beauty pageant when I was 50 years old. So to me, and it was not. No, it was nothing to prove to anyone, but it was only to prove to myself that I still have that I thought I have lost it. So I reinvented myself, and I feel so good about it that has led, I don't know, I think it's a coincidence, or maybe it was actually the pre or perimenopause symptoms that were pushing me to reflect so much on my life, introspect that where am I going? So I think now I look back and think that it was all together. the symptoms that were happening and the shift that happened, that I just discovered, like, you said, a better version of yourself. And I'm not done yet. I keep evolving myself, and I keep, because I think it's, once you have that shift, it just changes the way you think. And you don't go back. So what you only move forward and forward and forward. And I just feel happy now. I don't think that if I do this, then I'll be happy. No, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I just feel happy about it. So yeah, that's my take from what I have been going through.
When you go through perimenopause and menopause, you don't want to chase what wins, you want to chase what content. Which is a different type. When you're younger, you want to chase for happiness. First, you want to chase for the experience. Then you want to chase for the love, boyfriends and all that. Then you want to chase for the intimacy. Then you want to chase for the, the heart and the connection. And then then later on in life, when you are truly, truly there, like a death row, that you're going to die, then the one that you wish that you had, that you can leave this world with no regrets will be contentment. So moving towards contentment, and contentment doesn't mean that you are happy. It just means that you can still be not happy, but contently unhappy. Yeah, but psychology is like this. And Jung is very good at that.
Just one thing.
Sure.
It's important that how continuing to this that you have the purpose was to do something that make you happy and this and that. But if it is very difficult and menopause, there are extremes and the help can sometimes very here and it's sometimes very hard. Right? And how manage this in that moment?
So in those moments when you feel very down, and everybody will feel very down at one time, depression is part of the transition of perimenopause. So don't beat yourself up. The most important thing is that during that time, you must remember that it will pass. A lot of people, when they go through the depressive state of perimenopause and menopause, they think this is for life. They think this is it. They think this will not pass. They think that this is all that life has to offer. They think that it's better that they die. Because but you must realize that it is only a short part of your life, and that this too will pass. And once it passes, you wake up one day and you think like, what was that all about? It's like you think, what was that all about? What was I thinking? That's crazy. You think. So be assured that whatever depression or whatever sadness or unhappiness that you're feeling is temporary. Can really help you to transition out.
Can I ask another question, just a second?
So we're talking about depression, anxieties, and surrounding me, there's many of these people around me, right? And being threatened, I sometimes feel like might not be enough to support them, right? I'm just asking for your suggestions. Is there anything else that we can do, to make them feel better in a way that, to give them the support they can really feel that is useful? It's just not there, you will be okay, it's fine, giving them the positive affirmations. So sometimes I come across like people is telling me their anxiety, right? So they're pouring out their feelings and stuff like that. So sometimes I come to a point, what can I do more to support them? I think probably many of you here also have people around you are experiencing that, right? But sometimes you kind of like to learn, what can I do more to help these people? Do you have any suggestions?
That's a very, very good sharing. How many of you do this? How many of you have been in this situation? Put up your hands. A lot, right? And you don't know how to help these people, right? Okay, so the way to help them is this. Don't have. Don't have. Because it's not your role to help them. It's your role to listen to them. To support them by your presence, rather than by suggestions. When people are anxious and depressed, don't give them advice. Because they have already thought about everything that you have thought about.
Yes.
everything, and maybe more.
More.
Yeah,
Way
so
more.
don't give them advice
And cannot stop.
and cannot stop.
Yes.
But what they need is a sounding board. So you're just going to say, okay, I can see that you are very upset. I'm here for you. I'm listening. Just say it out. And then once they have said it, and then sometimes they say, so what do I do? You just stay calm and then you tell them, you are an amazing person. And the fact that you're experiencing this means that you have all the resources that you need to resolve this issue. If you want, I can unpack it all with you, or you can just figure it out, talk to me about it. Whenever you need help, just let me know. I'm here for you. Just your presence alone is the best help that we can give, especially if they are our kids. Especially if they are our daughters or sons or even husbands, people that are very close to us, don't give advice. Once your child is above 12 years old, they don't want your advice anymore. They just want your love. And so don't give advice. The biggest mistake friends do and people do is giving advice. Because we don't know their life. We don't know what they're thinking, feeling. We don't know how they're feeling. You don't know their experience. You don't know the complexity and the multi-dimensionality of that person's life. So who are you to advise them? Even me as a psychologist do not do that. What we do is we state that and we give them opinions, right? We say that, okay, you have these things, what are the things that you can do? So we help them unpack. What are the things that you can do? Like a child is come and tell you that, one day, if they don't even come and tell you, one day, you see, you're having lunch or dinner with them, and then you see all the cut marks on your hand, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, this is my daughter. I didn't even realize that she's cutting herself. What happened? And then how do you talk to that child? You talk to the child by saying that, hey, I noticed that, there is a lot of marks on your hand, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it? And she will say, no, I don't want to talk about it with you. And then you say, okay, you want to talk about it with me, I can handle it, okay? I'm handling it. Okay, if you're handling it, but I want you to know, me as your mom, I'm always here for you. And then you want me to. And once in a while, we may suggest, that, okay, here, this is, you might want to see a psychologist, I'll support you with that, or you want to see a psychiatrist, I'll support you with that, or you want to join this team, I'll support you with that. But our role becomes supportive, mentoring. When the child is from 0 to 12, we are in the nurturing role. We nurture them. When they are from 13 over to 21, we are in the coaching role. We coach them. When they're 21 and above, it's all mentoring. It's all mentoring. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And someone here?
I just, I really said about the depression and perimenopause. I was just wondering after your proposition wondering if the cases of women's suicide increases at that particular age or that time of their lives.
Yes. Here is how women in perimenopause commit suicide. They don't often commit suicide in the traditional way that are jumping off the buildings or anything like that. Normally, they will become very, very depressed. They isolate themselves. And to the point they stop taking care of the house. Everything becomes messy, and then that is then slowly disintegrating. Slowly, and then if they don't put a stop to that, then it will also mean the end of their marriage. And most of the time, if they're foreigners, they will then have a divorce, take the money, go back to the country, buy a small place, stay. But then because they are in that state, the children also have a very difficult relationship with them. So that is a no-win for everybody. And that's how we women who go through perimenopause and menopause commit suicide. A lot of times we don't just kill ourselves. even though there is a lot of studies that shows that we overdose on medication and all that. But that one is by accident. But we don't do these at 10 years or very little of that. But we kill ourselves in a different way. We kill ourselves by slowly sinking rather than immediate death. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you have to be careful of those signs. Because suicide doesn't mean, like they are planning to kill themselves with a knife or shoot their brains out or anything like that. It doesn't mean that. Suicide can also mean, suicide is the beginning of self-harm. It's a severe type of self-harm. So we self-harm our way. And then, of course, when that happens, we will start to get sick. Because we're not eating well, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not resting up, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Our hygiene becomes a problem, and then we slowly enter into dementia or Alzheimer's. And you can see a lot of, I'm sure many of you have grandparents that have done that. Grandmothers who have done that. You can see their slow degeneration. And then they get stroke, they get heart problem, they overeat. They eat, they cook crazy cooking, and then they eat crazy, and they put on so much weight, like, they go from slim to really, like, obese in their 50s or 60s. I'm sure you see that, right? Or they will go the other way, they become super thin. So these are all how we women prepare themselves and menopause from suicide. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So are you going to look up for the signs?
Yes.
Yes. And are we going to help each other with it?
Yes.
We have one more question and then we have to close the meeting.
Hi. Going back to your 16 SRM test, I want to know, right? Like they say that the blood type, okay, for example, they told me for me, I'm not supposed to eat meat so much, but I love my meat. Okay, so like, does that have any correlation to the bacteria and all that? Like, because I had this Korean lady tell me that in Korea they actually they actually hire people based on their blood test because then certain blood types get along with another blood type. So I don't know whether I'm making sense, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it's very famous in Korea. The blood type hiring procedure. But Koreans like to do that, right? Any Koreans here? No, thank God. That's not the Japanese people. Because it's like, why are you doing this? Of course, your blood type does have an impact on the food type that you are going to take and all that. Like people with whole blood, they should do a certain type of exercise and all that. But I think it's not very empirical, not much studies has been done on it. Korea, I know, is trying to do quite a bit of studies on that type, but not published yet, so we still don't know. And so we will rely on more reliable tests like stool tests and DNA tests. But I'm sure that there's we'll wait for the results to come out, we'll wait for the research to come out, I'm sure they're doing tests.
Thank you so much. Please. This is my menopause project.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
This is at home. This is just
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
We have a